Alright, hello everyone, it's Mr. Bardin here. This video is going to be going through a PowerPoint presentation that just kind of introduces the courses I'll be teaching for this year. It can be both for the students and the parents. If everything goes according to plan, I'll have this available for you all to watch on your first day in class, but then it will also be available in the Google Classroom under the course resources tab, so you'll be able to find both this recording of me and the slides that I have on the screen, so you can look at either one at your own, need. So with that being said, let's there we go. I had some animations there. My face is going to be cutting off some of the text periodically. So again, if you really care about what's there, go look at it on the Google Classroom. Okay, so just a bit about me before we hop into it. I'm a PhD candidate at LSU, which means I've finished all of my main courses for my doctoral degree. I just have to finish the big project at the end of it and pass the really big test that says, yes, I'm a doctor. I hope to have all of that done kind of by the end of the summer, this upcoming one, meaning next, like after this school year. But we'll see. It may take longer. It may go quicker. We don't know yet. There's not really a set timeline for where I'm at right now. My major is experimental music and digital media. And I also study music composition as well. So the short version of that is just using, finding new ways to make music and art with modern processes and technology. That's the really short version. If you want to know more about what I do, definitely check out my website or my YouTube channel. I'll be putting all that on there, online, so you can see all the stuff. But I won't go into it in too much detail right now. Um, so yeah, pretty much I'm focusing outside of teaching. I just finished a big music composition, and I'm currently, you may have noticed I'm not here. I'll talk about it in a second. But some works for a theater production, and then work for my dissertation. Um, and then I teach these classes that you are here taking, as well as some condensed versions of them over the summer for LSU, and then certify other teachers to teach these courses as well. Okay, a little more about me. I have a single black cat. Her name is Bean. You can see her picture kind of at the top of the screen. She's sleeping on my music keyboard as I'm working on something. She's currently sleeping behind me. She usually does that when I record some things, but it's kind of hard to see. If she ever comes up all around the desk, I'll make sure to point her out in a video. I've also got a fish tank. That's a very outdated picture of it, but there's my fish tank. And I enjoy, reading books, playing video games, and catching up on a sleep that I don't get enough of. Um, and That's kind of just me in a nutshell. If you got more questions, just ask. But we're not really here to talk about all that. I forgot I put this slide in there. Here's some details about my dissertation project. Um, I would love to talk more about it, but I don't want to distract the class. So I'll put this on the screen here. If you want to know more, ask me. The summer bits. Okay. Again, we didn't come in to hear a lot about me, but this part is kind of important. That's why I was going there. So you may have noticed, if you are watching this on the first day, if nothing has gone horribly wrong, that I am not physically in the room. So as part of my summer semester, I have done uh, somewhere around 90% of the composition and like 98% of the sound design for this show that the physical theater program at LSU is doing. And we are actually in Edinburgh, Scotland, at the Fringe Festival, which is basically the largest performing arts festival in the world. And we're performing this show every day while we're there. So just that's a kind of a cool thing. If I don't, mind saying so myself, I'll be kind of documenting what I do, and kind of posting all that stuff on YouTube, so you can check out that if you just want to see what the heck was Mr. Bardin up to this weekend. Well, you'll see that there. I will be coming back to class very shortly, because the LSU semester and the Livingston Parish semesters don't line up. This thing sometimes happens, but basically, I'll be showing up the week of August 21st. I'm recording this before I know the exact even odd schedule, so I don't know exactly which day I'll be back, but sometime during that week, I will be showing up in class. Until then, I'll be putting everything on Google Classroom for those 2.5 weeks. And so any slideshows, videos, assignments, stuff you need for that, all of that will be in the Google Classroom, which I will show you how to join in just a moment. But again, everything will be there. If you want to see what I'm doing, it's on the YouTube channel. I won't go into it too much here, but it's a lot of fun stuff, and it's all about dreams. So, um, okay. Speaking of being in the STEM Center, though, there are a few general rules. Uh, Ideally, Mr. Simmons will go over them, but if he hasn't already, the main ones to remember are, pay attention. If I'm talking, I'm to the class, I'm giving important information that you need to know. So don't have any side conversations while I'm talking. Um, I'll help out, but if it becomes a problem, I'm just not going to repeat myself, and that's too bad for you. Pay attention. Unless I tell you to have them out, don't have your phones out. Okay, just don't. I don't care if they're on or whatever, but just don't be using them. All right, just keep them in your pocket, in your bag, unless I bring up a reason for you to use them, which very rarely happens, but does pop up every once or twice. Just don't. All right, just don't. Um, if you have any drinks, please have water or have a lid on the drink, and no otherwise just snacking in the classroom. There's a lot of equipment around here, a lot of expensive electronics in the classroom. We do not want to have anything break or short out because someone spilled something in the classroom. And just no snacking in class either. It makes a mess. So um, if you get called to the office, do not cut through the big conference room on campus. What you'll do is from my room, you'll go out and hang two lefts and you're outside, and then walk down to the front door and then go in from the outside door to the main office of the STEM Center. Mr. Simmons will explain that more, but that's just a general rule. Don't leave the STEM Center campus during class. That's a big liability no. So just don't, like, once you're at the STEM Center, stay at the STEM Center, and then just don't break my things, please. I mentioned there's a lot of equipment in the classroom, and I'll be bringing in my personal things, and I'll talk about this more for the appropriate class that it relates to in just a moment. But just don't break the stuff. Just don't, please. Um, Nice and straightforward. Okay, so at the moment, this is the current plan. If things change after I have recorded this, I'll put a little asterisk and update the PowerPoint. But basically, I am only here during the classes I teach. So I should be here for first, third, and fifth hours this year. If it's not those times, I am not at the STEM Center. There are other classes that meet during the even days that use the same classroom. So we have to be able to, coexist in this space. So whenever you leave, make sure that tidy up the room, push the chairs in, put anything you get out, put up, log out of your laptops, plug in the laptops, throw away any trash you have, make it livable for the other people who use the room. If I'm come back and find out that you all have been leaving the room a mess, we're going to have some problems. So just make sure that the room is nice and organized when we're done. It's going to be, again, room 102 at the STEM Center. If you go in the main student entrance and hang a right, it is literally right there at that corner. So it's very hard to miss. My name is by the door, as well as the classes I teach. Okay, so on the next slide, I have a general layout of the classroom. Generally speaking, every seat has the same stuff. And basically they're all numbered. So there's a number attached to your seat. It's kind of up in the corner, so it's out of the way, but it's still there and noticeable. And this will match up with the number on your laptop, your flash drive, or any other equipment you may have. That's more for my sound design class than for my programming class, but just know that there is a number right there. You should make sure that you sit at the same seat every day, and that all of you have all the stuff that matches your numbers. When I return from the U.S., it'll have been about or return to the United States. It'll have been about 2 weeks. So by that point, you should know where you want to sit. And then we'll fill out the seating chart, and that will be your spot for the year unless there's some problems. I do reserve the right to move anyone if needed. But the important thing to take away is when you sit down, make sure that the number on your desk matches the number on your laptop and any other equipment you have. That will be kind of your device for the year. So keep up with that. Part of the reason for that is because, again, these laptops don't have a ton of storage on them, and this will minimize us having to go and delete all the stuff off of the laptops. Because if you logged into laptop 14 one day and 12 the next day and 11 the day after that, all of them have copies of your stuff and they just fill up. So stick to one laptop, and that is your device for the year. And if it fills up, we'll have to erase all of it. We don't want you to lose any work. So use the same laptop and just make sure everything else matches while you're at it. Okay, here's a general layout. This is an exact screenshot of the of that seating chart. So every red square is a seat, and we go 8 in the front, we have 6 in the middle, 4 in the back, kind of a thing. And that's just to make room for this recording station and recording booth that take up a bit of the classroom. And then there's a row along this back wall. So what you'll do is you'll decide where you want to sit. That'll be your spot. You make sure that your number matches the desk you're at. And then on the Google Sheet, which is all in the Google Classroom, you click on it, type your name, that's your name. So that's the general layout. I have some cabinets over here in the corner for storing stuff. There's some more along the wall. My desk is over here. I'll do my lessons from up here. It's all, not to scale, but a general abstraction of the classroom. Okay, I've mentioned the Google Classroom a handful of times. This is the part where if you are not paying attention, you should pay attention, because this is the first grade of the year. Below, I say below, kind of in the middle of the screen, are some codes here. And I forgot I couldn't highlight that. This is the Google Classroom code for your class. So if you are in the sound design class, regardless, should be teaching 2 sections of that and 1 of the programming digital media. It doesn't matter if you're in, first or third or whatever section of sound design you're in. We're gonna have the same Google Classroom. This is the code for that: BL5HICG. Join the classroom. That is the grade. And if I see you in the classroom, you will get the participation points in PowerSchool. If you're not, then you won't. That's as easy as that. Same thing for programming digital media. That code is 4JCCMXQ. So join it. Pause the video right now. Do it before you leave. I don't care. Just do it before you leave today. That is important. That is a grade. Join the Google Classroom. Okay. We'll explore the Google Classroom later, but I think it's pretty relatively simply laid out. This will be more relevant when I'm not here, but basically I'll be streaming or uploading videos of my various topics to my YouTube channel, and those will be a resource for you. I've got a link to it on this slide here, as well as in the Google Classroom. Basically, I try to organize everything into playlists, and I highly recommend that you subscribe to it so you can find the lessons you want to find. Again, especially when I'm not here, this will be the main way you are getting your instruction for those 2-ish weeks when I'm not in the country. Otherwise, unless I just don't have time, I'll pre-record the lessons like that weekend before and upload them, and then that will just be another resource for you to have. So maybe you have a question about something, or something that we did a while back. You can refer back to these video lessons, and that'll be helpful for you there, hopefully. If you are absent as well, my very first thing will be, I will say, and if you know anyone who took this before, they can more than likely validate if they remember. But okay, watch the video. The video lesson. Attempt the assignment. Let me know if you have questions. So if you're absent, watch the video lesson. That is how you will make up the lesson material. All right, I'm not gonna derail the whole thing for one or two people absent. Watch the video lessons if you are not in class for whatever reasons. I'll also post anything else in the Google Classroom that you might need. Okay, for contacting me, there are three main ways to do it. Okay, if it's not on this slide, I can't guarantee it'll work. So, Remind is the main way I will be communicating with everyone. I'll be trying to cross post between all these three things, but Remind is kind of the main one. So this is the second grade for the year. So pay attention if you are not. This is important. And there's the code right there for how to join it. This is also an assignment in the Google Classroom, so if you need a little more detail, but these are the codes for joining Remind. So again, if you need more details, look in the Google Classroom for that. But again, sound design has one group, programming digital media has another. Those are the codes to join it. I've already given you the code for Google Classroom, so you should be joining that shortly if you haven't already. This is kind of the order of preference that I would generally prefer. If you have a Remind, then check the Google Classroom. And then if you or a parent need to email me, use this email right on the screen. I'm going to hide me for just a second so you can see all of this email because this is important. If you do not email me at this address on the screen, I will not see it. And I will say, sorry, email me at the right address and I'll see it. This is the one to use. Matthew.Bardin, that is my name, at lpsb.org. Let's come back now. Okay, so again, email me at that email address. Otherwise, sending me a message on Remind is the fastest way. Google Classroom, if you put like a private comment on something, I can see things paired up, but I don't always get notifications for every single one. So again, Remind is the safe bet. Email me if nothing else is working, but make sure you use the right email. Okay. Office hours. This is another way to contact me, though. It's a little iffy. Like it'll work, but I would prefer you use the other stuff. And this is for my office hour session. So every weekend, every Saturday from 11 to noon, unless I say otherwise, I will have a Saturday session, an office hour. Basically, an office hour is usually just a chance for you as the student to come in and ask questions about anything. If this was, if I was a full time teacher and anything, and be like, hey, stop by on my planning hour. I'll be here all day. Stop by the classroom, whatever. But that's not the case. So I'm creating a virtual office for students to come in and ask whatever they need. If you have questions about an assignment, a project, any of the lessons or concepts, contacting me here is a great way to do that. So I've got the link right here in the slide, and it's also in the Google Classroom. There are some little what I forget what Discord calls them, but it's through Discord. But basically, there's little rooms for each of the different classes. Other students are in them. You can see it. So if you don't need an immediate response from me, you could post a thing in there and see other students respond. Just keep it relevant to class. Like I don't want to have to be a moderator and delete posts or remove people from it, but if I have to, I will. But this is a place where you can go in and post things vaguely related to the class, ask questions, things like that. Again, 11 to noon, unless I otherwise say so. Every Saturday, I'll open up the kind of it's a voice channel, but I can share my camera and screen. And this is very similar to a Zoom call, so you can get some one-on-one feedback and advice through this. So I'll be able to share my screen, and you can look at it, and vice versa if we need to, and we can go from there. If you need help, outside of that, we can work all that out individually, but you need to let me know. So, reach out via any of these ones we mentioned before, or talk to me in class, and we'll work out those details as needed. But again, there's an office hour Discord server I have. Definitely recommend that you join that if you can. I'll post some stuff there, but most of the time I'll focus on these during the week in the ways of communication. So we'll go with that. Okay, grading. Generally, I'm a lenient grader, okay? But you need to do the work. So again, I'm generally pretty lenient. I generally care more about the can you do the things rather than interpretation and all that artistic stuff. But my general rule is if you make a serious on-time attempt at my assignments, you will not fail. Don't worry about that. If you gave it your best shot, and even if it was a little not quite great, um, but it was on time, I won't fail you for that. We'll keep going, and I would expect improvement over time, but that's the general idea. I do my best to update grades each weekend. Doesn't always happen, but I do my best to do it every weekend. Um, okay, so yeah, work I generally make it due before the next class. So if I see you on Monday and again on Wednesday, I expect everything to be turned in by 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, or else it's considered late. Okay, I do this for a few reasons. One, you're busy at school. Again, you might need a little more time to work on stuff. There's a lot of things going on. You also need your sleep, so the deadline is midnight that night before. So that is the deadline. If there's a weird circumstance, let me know. We'll work it out. But there is a late penalty. That'll kind of vary, case by case. But I start off at 10% of a grade penalty for late work, and then that just gets more and more depending on how late or important the assignment is. If you do not turn in the assignment, it will always be a 0. Okay, you will not get any points unless you turn it in. I can be as lenient of a grader as I want to be, but if you don't turn in the work, I have nothing to grade. So again, you have to do the work and turn it in if you want a grade. Otherwise, it's just a 0, and I will not feel sorry about that in the slightest. So turn in your work, you'll be fine. Okay, this is the point of the video where I am going to focus on the sound design course. So if you are taking sound design, stay with me. If you are taking the programming digital media course only, then you can fast forward the video until the slides kind of change to a blue color. I'm recording this live, so I don't actually know how far in the future that will be, but I'd imagine it'd be about 10 or 15 minutes. So if you're only in the programming digital media course, skip forward to that bit. It'll say programming digital media on the slide in big letters. And if you're in sound design, watch this part. Um, if you're in both, then enjoy the whole video. Okay, so sound design. The basic is, we're kind of creating our own sounds and songs from the ground up. We'll be using some software to do this. Generally, we'll be using the Studio One software by PreSonus. This should already be on the computers, but I don't know if they've erased them all over break like they sometimes do. So I may have to come in and reinstall it during my first week there. Normally, this software is a $400 software. I'm not asking that you buy this or use it. We will have a free it's all paid for the school, so that's good. We have that full version for the school software. If you want to do anything outside of the classroom, there is a free version of the software that you can buy. You still have to add it to your cart and add it to your account through PreSonus, but whatever. But and you can install this on your home computer. It doesn't come with everything. It's missing a few effects and synthesizers and other features that we will probably use in the class. But I highly recommend that everyone get the free version on their device. If you possibly can. This lets you work on some stuff from home. You aren't restricted to the classroom. I won't stop you from getting the $400 version, but I mean, I'll hide my face so you can see the whole paragraph. I won't stop you, but I'm not going to ask you to spend any money for this class. All right. But if you ever need to finish something outside of class, this will be the only way you can do it, is to have access to some version of the software. And there's a link to where you can find that right here in the slides. Okay, hardware. So again, we'll be making music. We will be focusing in the software version for most of the class. Towards the end of the fall semester, we'll start bringing out some hardware, but we'll mostly use it in the spring. basically, I'll go over everything in more detail when it's time to start using that equipment. But in general, we have audio interfaces, which are what you plug the microphone into in order to get it to connect to the computer. The various cables, headphones, microphones, MIDI controllers. We have a recording booth and more. So there's a ton of stuff that we can have and use, but we'll get to that all in more detail when it gets a little closer. Um, but an important note on the equipment is that audio equipment, it's tools, it's not toys, as I say on the screen. So, I expect that accidents, they're bound to happen. I mean, it's just part of being alive. But please do your best to minimize accidents. When I give you equipment for the first time, I will give you instructions on how to use it properly. So don't grab anything I haven't talked about yet. Unless I, give you permission to use this and tell you what to do. Don't just go grabbing equipment. All right, I will tell you what to use and when to use it. So when I'm not here for the first 2 weeks, we will not be touching any of the equipment. If you are touching this equipment while I am gone, I will be very upset. Okay, that's that. But if things break, again, an accident's an accident. If it's broken for anything basically other than normal use, there may be some consequences going along with that. If you happen to have an accident every week, this will also apply to you. Again, if the accidents become regular, so you may fail the assignment or project or get a grade reduction. Mr. Simmons may be called in for disciplinary action. I may give you like makeup work. I may say get out of my class. You may get a bill for it. Depends on how serious it is. This has not happened before. I'm not planning on it to happen, but if I don't put on my serious face of don't break my stuff, then something's going to happen. So don't break my stuff. Follow the instructions. We'll all have a good time. It'll be fun. But if I need to put this in there because otherwise, if I didn't, we'd have more problems. Okay. Course structure. This is what you can expect going forward, at least on a general level. We kind of have 6 main sections here, and generally this is the order that we'll go in. A few of them kind of overlap around in the middle, so we may jump around a bit, but we'll start off with music theory. We'll move on to working in our software, then hardware, and working on making more and more content as the year goes on. So music theory, I'd like to have this done by the end of August ish. We'll be a little flexible. We'll figure it out. I'm wanting to make it shorter than we had it last year. If you know anyone who took it last year, this went on for a bit. The main reason was we were waiting for all of the equipment to get delivered so we could actually use it. Now that we have all the stuff, and at most it's me just installing and updating some softwares, at most, I want to condense this a bit. So we'll go over some general stuff. I've got all this in the Google Classroom. But generally speaking, we'll spend some time working on stuff and some little assignments. It's pretty... I'm not too worried about it. I think you all will work pretty well. This isn't a dedicated music theory class, but knowing just a little bit on how to read music and talk about music, it's very helpful when you're in a class about making music. All right. Intro to Studio One. So this will be the bulk of the remainder of the fall semester. So this will take a little bit from the different recording sections, but it'll be most of it. Your goal is to become familiar with the editing environment so you can do the more advanced stuff later on. So we'll go over, where all the stuff is, the important things you need to know, how we can edit and arrange audio, working with video, working with MIDI devices, effects, automation, all that stuff. It'll be fun. It'll be generally individual works and projects. I'm not expecting a ton of group projects, and maybe 1 or 2, but that'll happen a little bit more later on. Live recording. So this will generally be a little bit shorter of a unit because it overlaps with the some stuff we do in the last unit, but we'll be kind of at the beginning of the spring semester. And basically, we're going to be doing recordings that don't involve the booth, but other kinds of of recording. So maybe things with the handheld recorders or from the laptop, uh, finding sounds, doing interviews with people talking, stuff like that. These are generally uh, individual or little partner projects. So be prepared. There will be some group work, nothing nuts though. Uh, Studio recording. This, again, we may be a little more flexible depending on what we need to do for recording, but this will be focusing on the recording in the studio. That's not our recording studio. It would be nice, but no, we have a booth that we have built up in the classroom to use. But we'll be focusing generally on what you do with the studio, making sure we have the correct gear, recording live musicians, and kind of building up that sound through multi-tracking techniques. Um, and generally, the goal is for you to record people towards a final project for the section. We'll then get into mixing, and this is kind of the final unit where we'll take all those recordings we've made and we'll start mixing them into a song. The idea is we'll kind of make a cover of a song that you like. But we'll talk about all the different ideas, automating, doing all that work in order to build something that you can actually listen to. Um, and then there's a final project where you'll get to make something completely from the ground up that you get to pick and you get to design. Well, I'll put more details into exactly what that means as we get closer to it, because it may tweak a little bit from what I'm envisioning just based off of what we've covered in class. I don't want it to be a massive project for something we haven't covered a ton of, and I don't want it to be super easy or unrelated to what we've talked about. So there may be a little bit of adjustments as throughout the year, but that part will stay the same, and we'll ideally spend about the last 3-ish weeks of class on it, and the final exam period will be when you'll listen to everyone's work. Okay, so that's the end of that section. Again, that's sound design in a unit. I'm about 32 minutes into this whole recording, and we're moving on to programming digital media. At the very end, I'll have a slide about everything else, like how you can get in contact with me. But it's all the methods I've mentioned before. So at this point, we're going to stop the sound design and move on to programming digital media. So if you are only in my sound design course, you can stop the video as soon as I'm done with this sentence. If you are still watching this, that means you're in the programming digital media course, and we are going to go talk about that now. So generally, we'll be focusing on things with the idea of game design. Not always, though. The idea is to create digital content of varying kinds by programming it in JavaScript. So this is where I'm going to talk a bit about this course and what you can expect with that. So mainly we will be using the online code editor P5.js. You can get to the website up there. This will be a grade, kind of at the first thing, but you have to make an account. This is a grade that's unique to this class. I didn't mention that kind of thing in the other exam, but you have to make an account. You have to provide an email for that, but they don't contact you at all. So again, you just make an account, you log in and do your thing. Most of this will be in software for this course, so I'm less concerned about hardware equipment breaking for this class, but just remember to make sure everything's tidied up and logged out when you leave. At the end of the year, however, we will be shifting to working with Arduino, and that will involve hardware and a new software, so just don't say I didn't warn you. We'll talk about that when it gets a little closer. There is an online textbook for the class. You can find that right here. I'll periodically refer to it throughout the class. But since I, wrote most of the book, please ignore the typos. I am working on that. There's been some back end changes. I may not always look at the book during the lecture, so everything will come out of it. Like, I'm not going to teach you things that aren't in the book, but definitely bookmark it, because I may go into it and be like, look at this example or this chart that kind of explains this fairly clearly. If you need to review anything, this is another resource to definitely check out. So have this bookmarked, because I may periodically ask you to go to the book throughout the year. All right, the hardware. I mentioned we go into the Arduino portion of at the end of the class. So basically, we have a class set of Arduino Uno boards and various through-hole style components, and basically we'll be building up circuits and having it respond to code um, that we write. And I'll go through this in more detail as we move along, but that's basically what's happening right there. Um, we'll get into that more. So what you can expect course structure wise are five main sections. So these are on the screen, and I'm going to go through each of them in a bit of detail. So the basics of coding. So this will be the longest section of the course. Um, Ideally, we'll finish around Thanksgiving, give or take a little bit. But basically, this is going over all of the just basics of JavaScript code formatting and the P5 library that we'll be using in order to generate all the things. That's this. Let's say I'm just thinking this is technically HTML that includes JavaScript, but we're not going to get into that in detail. But you can see some of the topics we'll cover. There's a lot of them. We'll go for that. If you are already familiar with JavaScript and coding, and you're just bored, let me know. I can come out with some much more creative assignments for you. But again, this goal is to just make sure everyone is on the same starting page in terms of coding knowledge um, before we move on to more advanced stuff. That advanced stuff starts with graphics. So basically, we'll you be able to use images in our code, manipulate them. We'll be able to generate sprites, and we'll actually be making 3 different games in this unit that all utilize graphics and coding library and interacting between different virtual entities in our code. We'll move on to audio after that. This will be a slightly shorter unit than the other ones. And basically, we'll be focusing on how to, instead of working with images, work with sound. So being able to play back sound files, do synthesizers, change up sounds, alter that. And basically, we'll culminate this in adding a unique adaptive soundtrack to a game from our last unit that we made. So that'll be what we kind of end that with. Again, that'll probably be the shortest unit because Arduino takes a bit of time. So the duration, again, we're going to keep the sound unit short so that way we have plenty of time to work with the Arduino. And we'll talk, how electricity works, building these circuits, making things interact with the code and all of that. But it does just take a little bit more time to teach all this stuff. So it's a little flexible on that unit. But that'll be where we kind of wrap out the instruction for the year. And the final project, they vary a little bit each year, but generally speaking, you'll be making a game of some kind from the ground up. So it'll involve some audio and some sprite interactions and something with Arduino. I'll talk about it in more detail, but we'll spend the last few weeks of class focusing just on that, and then we'll present it during the final exam time. So just be prepared for that. Okay, so that is the end of the course intro for both of my courses. Again, I've kind of talked a bit about some of the general rules and expectations of the classroom, a bit about me in general, all hopefully important information to know, and then I've kind of branched off into the 2 different classes and spoke about each of them individually. That's about it. This last section didn't go nearly as long as I thought it would. But if you have any questions or concerns, again, please feel free. I've got lessons in all this, this exact video all on my YouTube channel. There's my office hours, which are, again, you can find the link to all this back in the beginning of the slides. But you can join that office hour, post questions there, send me a message on Remind. If you haven't joined the Google Classroom, do that yet. You've also got my email address, again, from those previous slides. If you don't email me at that email address, I can't guarantee I'll see it. And if I don't, and I'll just say, well, did you send it to the right email address? And if you didn't, well, that's too bad. But these are the ways you can get in contact with me, or you can speak with Mr. Simmons, and he can forward on a message if it's something immediately urgent. while I'm out of the country. Again, I will not be physically in the country until sometime the week of the August 21st. There's a lot of layovers on the way back, so I may need an extra day to just recover from jet lag. But I'll be back at the end of August for the in-person instructions, and each class I'm kind of pacing it that way, so we'll kind of be wrapping up some of the very basic intro stuff and moving on into more advanced topics once I get there. So I think that's just about it. If I talk for much longer, I will be rambling. So I'm going to end it now. As always, let me know if you have questions or concerns. Like, comment, subscribe, all the boring YouTube stuff, and I will see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.